We live in a time where masculinity is shamed and men don't know what it means to be a man. As a pastor and counselor, I've spent the better part of my life equipping and training others. My goal with this show is to translate my hard-earned experience into tools and tactics to help you become stronger as a man. This is the BraveCo podcast. I'm your host, Jason Vellet. All right, BraveCo men, welcome back to the BraveCo podcast. This week, well, I've got yours truly, Cole Zick.
Yours truly. That's right. Yours truly. And Jason's truly as well. It's been a while, actually.
Dude, it's been a while. Yeah, it's been too long.
It's been too long. Not since we've seen each other, but since I've...
No, the last time I saw you, we were watching the 49er game 2 weeks ago.
Yep. We spent a lot of time that week. We went and saw the puppies.
Oh, yeah.
We had the game night.
Yeah.
It was a fun weekend.
Yeah, it was a great weekend. 49ers, golly, dude. They friggin' pulled out that win.
They did. Now, hopefully they win it all.
I know. Well, by the time this podcast comes out,
they will have either won it or lost it.
Yeah.
So when you're listening to this,
you'll know.
You'll know.
But we don't.
But we don't.
I really don't want Kansas City to win.
I'm going to be on a marriage retreat, not thinking about football when that game is played.
That's good.
And very happy. I hope to be very happy.
Yeah. What if you're not?
What if it years worth of problems coming out?
You find out that your marriage is terrible.
Oh, man.
On the retreat.
Well, then I will have wished I was watching the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you will. But I'll say I told you so.
Yes, you will.
Nah.
Because Jason's always good for that.
Well, speaking of marriage, this week we're going to talk about the 3 top needs of a woman and a man. And we can get into more needs than that. But
yeah,
in order to have a healthy relationship. And I like this conversation because we don't often have this conversation. And so I think that it's really helpful to unpack for men and for women, what the heck is your wife needing?
Yeah.
And what is your husband needing? There's a lot of women that listen to our podcast.
Yep.
So
that's great. Well, and I think, for men, at least for me, it's very easy for me to intentionally forward think about my job, the ministry I'm leading, even kids, the things that I can label as project almost, I got to get these done. I'm wired to think. If my boys are going through something, I'm thinking, okay, how can I help them get through this? What's the next thing? What's the next conversation I have to have? I actually have to intentionally slow down for some reason. I don't know the reason, but I have to slow down to think, what's my wife need? What do I have to do to be successful there? It really almost takes more discipline because it's something you just think would organically, naturally form. Yeah. And it doesn't. So I think this is really good just for us to remember, hey, we actually have to slow down and intentionally think about how do we love our wives really well.
Well, I think the kids kind of demand it, right?
They do.
If you don't pay attention and take care of the kids,
you're going to get embarrassed in public.
Yeah. And they're not going to, let you slide.
Yes,
and
they're not.
Work too kind of feels like that. You go to work and it's well, you better have a plan. You know, it's kind of demanding it.
Yeah.
And especially you're a pastor. So if you don't prepare for work,
it's going to be bad.
Sunday morning's going to come and you're going to not have a good
Sunday
message.
morning comes every single week.
It does. Yeah. And people, but it's so easy to coast and have our wife be kind of the last thing that we're paying attention to.
Yeah. It's true. And we tend to do when we coast is you almost never coast on the road you're supposed to be on. You drift.
Yeah.
And it's not fast. It's slow.
I know.
And before you know it, it's been 3 months since you've done that thing that gave you a ton of life, or that thing that told her how much she mattered to you. And now you've slowly drifted onto a different road that you didn't mean to be on. And now you're looking, oh my man, the road I'm supposed to be on is way over there. How'd I get here? Well, it wasn't quick. It was not being intentional along the way.
Well, I also think that guys feel like women are really complicated.
Yes, we do.
But the thing is they're super complicated if you don't understand what they need.
Yeah.
And how to do that. So let's talk about what women need first, and then we can talk about the needs of a man.
That's great.
So The top 3 needs of a woman is to feel safe, seen, and heard. And to me, like, I'll say this, when you're dating, these don't seem like the top 3 needs.
Yeah.
Because like when Lauren and I were dating, I would have thought that her sex drive was close to mine. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, yes. That's hilarious.
I know. I would have thought that we were,
I guess I would have thought the same thing, though. You're right. And now that is so comical.
Golly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even close. It's not in the same ball field.
For the dating folk, gentlemen, that's just comical.
It is. But they switch on you, right? So when you're dating, it's not that she doesn't need to feel safe, because she does need to feel safe. It's not that she doesn't need to feel seen, because she does. But you have these other drivers, right? That are more predominant when you're dating. But when you get married and you get into a long-term relationship, her top priorities are to feel safe, are to feel seen, and to feel heard. And here's the thing about those things. It's not easy to do that.
It's true.
It's freaking complicated, because in order for your wife let's start with to feel safe. In order for your wife to feel safe, it requires the man to not be passive.
Yep.
Because I think passivity is one of the main reasons why a woman doesn't feel safe in a relationship. When you really think about it, like, because a woman's oftentimes, and we're speaking in generalities. Okay. There's women who have a higher sex drive than a man that they're married to and whatever.
Lucky you.
Yeah. Yeah. But for the most part, when a man's passive, what happens, there's 2 things that happen right away. One is it creates a bunch of anxiety in the relationship, because she's wondering, am I going to be led? Are you strong enough to lead me? Are you going to take care of me?
Yeah.
Are you going to step up? Am I going to be alone raising these kids? And a woman's fear of being alone in the partnership is massive.
Yeah.
Her fear that she's going to have to do it all by herself. It's like that's right at the top of fears for women. And so when a guy's passive, often women do one of 2 things. They're either going to just back up, or most common though is they're going to take control.
Yeah.
And when your wife takes control, it's not from a place of like, oh, I really love you, I'm just going to cover this area. It's usually out of a place of fear, right?
Yeah.
And so then you feel like you have 2 moms. Your mom that's really your mom, and your wife she's telling you what to do. She's mothering you. And then she doesn't respect you, and you don't respect you. And so it creates this it creates this massive conflict inside the relationship, because she doesn't feel safe, doesn't feel like you're going to take care of her, feels like she has to take care of you, feels like she's on her own. And you're in a marriage where that feels impossible. And the marriage feels impossible because you're passive. You're allowing your fear, your insecurity to be the driver in your relationship, and it's almost impossible.
Well, and I would say this with it too. I think sometimes we can, for guys that it's not natural for them to take control.
Yeah.
We can start shooting in the dark trying to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like now, what she's not looking for is for you to control her.
Yeah.
What she's looking for you is to control situations.
Yeah.
Like she wants to know that, hey, he's going to make sure we have the finances we need. He's going to make sure that we're safe. He's going to make sure that when we have a challenge in front of us, he's going to proactively find how to fix that challenge, address that challenge. If there's an issue, one of the things I found in our marriage is when we're going through something with one of our kids, being proactive and finding the solution to help our kid out of a challenging situation helps her trust me more, helps her see that I'm going to, if our kid's hurting and I don't have a solution, sorry. it creates a really unsafe place for her. If one of our kids is hurting and I say, yeah, he's hurting, we're going to sit down with Jay this week, she then automatically feels more safe because I'm taking control of the moment or the situation or the need. Don't overreact and start telling your wife what to do, thinking that's communicating assertiveness.
Yeah.
She's actually looking for assertiveness over the situation and know, hey, he's actively figuring out how to solve the challenges in our life. And that creates a lot of safety.
Yeah, it's so true. The ability to take action, even if you don't know how to solve it, right? You're in the game with her. You're communicating like, hey, this thing's a problem. Like we had a roof leak the other day. And honestly, like we have a tile roof. I'm not the guy to fix that.
Yeah.
So my wife, all of a sudden she's like, I feel like our house is a sponge just soaking up all this water, right? She's afraid. And if I ignore that, that just gets louder.
Yeah.
And she gets more afraid.
Yep.
But me going, okay, I'm going to call a roofer. I'm going to have him come out. I'm going to game plan it. There's lots of things that I don't know how to solve on my own.
Yep.
Because I think a lot of guys feel this pressure to know
you
how
don't have
do
to
stuff.
be the one to solve it.
You have to be the one that's making a plan, that's actively making a plan. And honestly, your wife may have the best plan, but it's your job to initiate that.
Yeah.
To go, hey, what are we going to do for this? Do you have any thoughts? I've got some thoughts, and to brainstorm through that, not being passive and stepping up, being assertive. So the word that we're looking for there is assertive.
Yeah.
Where I lend my strength to you, she's going to lend her strength to me, and we're going to solve this piece.
It's great. I mean, we just could have solved a lot of marriages just in that one part of this.
It's possible.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So if you're struggling with passivity, most often it's because you feel powerless in an area or you don't have confidence in an area. There's a lot of areas where I feel powerless and unconfident.
Mm-hmm.
That can't be a reason for me not to do something.
Yeah, it's true.
It really can't. It's okay, even though I'm feeling this way, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And
to go after it, tackle it.
Yeah. And that's where, like, if you have guy friends too, it really helps because all of a sudden, like even something stupid, like for the roofer, I sent it out to a group text that has 12 guys on it, just 12 of my friends in Reading. And right away, like I got, I don't know, 4 or 5 guys that were like, oh, call use this guy, use this guy, do this thing. And now I've got the strength of all these men that are actually helping me, which is awesome. Yeah. The next one, to feel seen. Now, to me, and you can jump in if you want on of course, on any of these, but to me, the feel seen, you ever, I talk to guys a lot about this, like, well, maybe it's more on the known, but even seen, like they grow up with their parents their whole entire life, but they don't feel like they know them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know who my dad was. And that seen and known piece to me is all about, do I understand you? Am I present and caught up in your day-to-day life?
Absolutely.
Do I understand what you go through on a regular basis? And am I a good partner with you in that? And the thing about a woman is, like, a lot of guys are so much simpler in this because, like, we have less words. We have for the most part, we have less need to share every day. A woman, she's going to change. Like, my wife's going to change from last night to this morning, what she's feeling, what she needs, what she's thinking.
Yeah.
And my ability to really track with her on that and to understand and to open her up emotionally with good questions and proactive listening and being patient is massive.
It's good. Well, and it's funny, when you're learning how to see your wife, you're probably going to not see her well a lot of times.
Yeah.
You know, it's Kate and I we've been together, we've been married for almost 17 years, together for 20 because we dated for quite a while first. And there's a funny little dynamic is we went through years where it didn't matter what gift I bought her, she hated it.
Yeah.
And I love buying gifts. Like, it's one of my, like, when we do each year for Christmas, we ask the kids a couple things that they want. And then I try to get each kid one thing they didn't ask for, wasn't on their list, but they would love. Same with Caitlin. Like, it's just kind of a fun thing I like to do. And no lie, until last Christmas, I don't know that she ever liked one of the gifts. Bro. And I was working hard, Jay. Like, she liked this show called Cold Case. So I went and found this like special edition Cold Case DVD that was from when they were winning an award, and it was
Cold Play?
No, Cold Case. It's an old TV show.
Okay.
It's not even around anymore. This is like 10 years ago. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not talking I was getting her vacuums and expected her to like it. I'm like, I'm working hard. She, so I get her this Cold Case. It's like what the judges at the Golden Globes were sent this. They watched it to then vote. Like, I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Didn't like it.
Zero.
She wanted these charm bracelets. So I went and got her the charm bracelets.
Yeah.
Didn't like the charms. So the next holiday, I literally go and buy her a different set of charm bracelets. And she didn't like those charms either.
Fail.
Like, just one failure after another failure. And to be honest, I went through a couple years where I'm like, here's cash.
Oh, bro, I did that too.
I'm like, I don't even want to try.
Horrible.
I'm done.
That's a bad idea.
Like, here's cash. Get you a gift card. Here's a $100 Visa gift card. Go buy what you want.
I filled the stocking up one time with $1 bills. There's like $300 in there. Froze one of our worst Christmases, dude. She was so upset. She's like, you gave me my money.
Well, and in the worst way, because you just have a whole bunch of ones now.
She's pulling it out.
It's almost just like...
And that's what I would have wanted, right? Like, I'd have been stoked to get $300.
That is so funny. So last year, I finally get her one that she just loves. It's this winter coat. She loves it, But I will say that even as dumb as it sounds, the journey and the attentiveness it takes for me to crack that code is actually really important. It's easy for me to get tempted into saying you're high maintenance, you're hard to please, or I can realize I'm on this journey of learning her and seeing her. And it was when I got her this coat, as dumb as this sounds, she was like, wow, thank you. Like, it actually meant more than just the gift.
Yeah.
I had worked hard to understand her, to see her, and to identify, hey, she would love this. I picked the right color. I picked the right type. Like, I crushed it.
That's awesome.
Took me 17 years, but I crushed it.
You got it.
But that's it, right? Like, and now there's lots of little things that I've learned over the years. When if we're going to speak somewhere, getting her, coming into the room with an iced coffee, she's like, oh my gosh, how'd you know? Well, I know you.
Yeah.
Like, I've paid attention enough to know I see you. Those little things, it's wild how critical and important those are and how big of an impact it has on our heart.
Yeah. So I keep lists on my phone of things that she says, throughout the year that she likes.
That's a great idea.
And I've done that for a long time. And that seen and known piece is, I am keeping track of you. Yeah. I understand you.
That's great.
Following what you love.
Communicates value.
Yeah. Communicates so much value. Yeah. And because the deal is like, your wife's anxiety lowers and lowers the more she feels known and seen by you. And if she doesn't feel known and seen by you, she doesn't trust you.
Yeah.
That anxiety raises. And she constantly, again, feels like she has to cover for the things that you're going to miss.
Yeah.
And so I often think too that guys feel like, man, I gotta buy all these big things for my girl to feel seen and cared for. And you don't. For me, a lot of the seen and known is in text messages throughout my day. Like yesterday, I was teaching like a master class, and in the middle of it, some guys, I was listening to some guys talk, and I just thought, I'm going to send my wife a text.
Yeah, it's great.
And just let her know that I'm thinking about her right now. Like, that makes her day.
Yeah.
When I come home, the first thing I ask my wife when I come home is, how did Liam sleep? He's 2.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to figure out, where's he at? Where are we at? What does she need? How did Edie sleep? For their naps, and what's the plan? Like, I'm trying to partner with her to see where she's at, to fill in the gaps, because I'm her partner.
Yeah, it's good.
And so I think for guys, a lot of it for your woman is, are you studying her?
Yeah.
Are you paying attention? And then are you intentional to anticipate the need?
Yep. Well, and I would even say learning to notice and acknowledge something that maybe doesn't matter to you, but it was big for her.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like there was a season where Kate was at home and she wasn't in the office, and she'd work to have the house clean when I came home, which I'm like, great. But if the house is dirty, I also don't care.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm chilling.
Doesn't matter like it matters to her.
Doesn't matter like it matters to her. Right? Like
Yeah.
I don't want the house to be like disgusting.
Yeah.
But like if there's stuff on the counter, it's like,
yep.
So I'd come home during that season and she'd have the kitchen perfect, the house perfect. And I'd walk in and I had to actually teach myself to say something and acknowledge that. Finding those types of things that maybe are like secondary to you that are primary to her, making sure that you're saying something and talking about that and noticing that, like, oh, wow, baby, kitchen looks great. She'll literally thank me for thanking her. Yeah. Because it matters that much.
100%. It's that affirmation.
Yep.
Right. Your wife, a massive part of her feeling seen and known is the affirmation. You are affirming my role. You're affirming my contribution. You are affirming what I do and how I look. And man, a woman, it's like, so the question that a woman's always asking herself, thanks John Eldridge, is, am I worthy to be pursued? Mm. A man is, do I have what it takes, right? A woman is, am I worthy to be pursued? And so that's why your little girl, Edie's constantly asking me, Dad, how do I look? What do you think? She's, Dad, watch. She wants me to give her that affirmation, to see her, to constantly reinforce, you are worthy of my attention. You are worthy to be pursued. You are beautiful. You are a princess. Your wife's asking the same thing over and over and over again on a regular basis. Our ability to not make her reach for that. Yep. But to meet her at that spot, massive. That's great. It's so massive. It's good, man. Okay. The last one, heard. Safe, seen, and heard. Yeah. The heard one, I think, is one of the most challenging because it takes a lot of courage. Yeah, it does. To hear your wife, because it's not like, to hear her isn't just to listen to her words or to listen to her ideas, which, it's to listen to her emotions and her fears and her concerns. And if your wife's like my wife, I feel exhausted just by you saying it. She's got a bunch of them every day. She's got concerns and fears. And like last night, our son had a fever. Liam had a fever. And she goes, oh, I'm just so worried that he's going to wake up in the middle of the night and I'm going to have to go in there. And okay, that's an opportunity for me to actually hear her. Mm-hmm. Or I could dismiss it. I could go like, babe, it's not going to happen. Yeah. Well, and we signed up for this. Suck it up. Yeah. Well, you won't, whatever. You wanted this. You wanted these kids. But it takes a lot of courage, right? Yeah. When my wife is frustrated, when she's emotional, when she's overwhelmed, it's so tempting for me to back away, to dismiss it through like, it's going to be fine. Yeah. Babe, is not a big deal. And that happens a lot. In lots of different areas. Yeah. Where I want to go, it's not a big deal. It's okay. But all that is, guys, that's dismissive. Yeah, it's exactly right. And you're not solving the problem. You're just dismissing her needs. Yes. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't feel heard. And so she's going to get louder. Yeah. Or she's going to get bitter and resentful and not share at all. And then you have a disconnected marriage. So it's true. The heard is challenging because I often feel typically when I try to dismiss my wife, it's because I feel afraid. Yeah. That's really good, Jay. I feel powerless. And it looks like I'm just trying to be scared to venture into that topic.
It's true.
Yeah, I feel overwhelmed.
Sometimes it's because she brings it up at 11 o'clock and I wish she would have brought it up at 6. But there is, most of the time it is fear. Sometimes it's just, I would have loved this conversation 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
So we don't have to be here till 2 a.m.
I know.
That doesn't actually happen as much anymore. Early on, I felt like it was always, the big topic got dropped when we got in bed at 11:30 and I'm like, we're going to be here till 4.
Well, dude, I think that happens a lot because if they don't feel like we're going to listen to them.
Yep. They're waiting for the right moment. That was one of the things Kate taught me early on is she had to actually prepare herself to bring up a topic because I wasn't responding great.
Yeah.
And this is interesting. Like I would say Caitlin is probably very low need in this area compared to a lot of people. You know, like Caitlin and I don't spend hours on hours like in this area. Like,
hashing out her feelings.
Caitlin's pretty low maintenance in some of this realm. But early on in marriage, we weren't doing a super great job at it, right? Like we had a lot of insecurities in our relationship. I had them, she had them. We were insecure. So because we were insecure, it would be really hard to have a conversation that centered around one of us needing to do something different, either one of us.
Yeah.
And so, it would take her, if I got home at 5, it would take her 5 hours of courage building to talk to me about something.
Yeah.
And I'm blaming her. Like, why didn't you bring this up earlier? She's like, well, because I have so much.
You're a jerk when I bring this stuff up.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I have to strengthen myself to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I would even pause and ask guys to kind of do a self-assessment. Like, does your wife have to strengthen herself?
Yeah, that's good.
To talk to you about something?
Yeah.
Because Kate had to. And we, there was some of this in our story, probably 5 years into marriage, we started going to counseling. Kate started going to counseling for a lot of stuff in her past and some trauma she'd experienced. But the counselor says, you guys need to spend, I think it was like, I don't remember. This is like 10 years ago or more, but it was something like you guys need to spend 30 to 45 minutes a day talking. Like, how much do you guys talk? Just the two of you. And Kate's like, I mean, like a week? What do you mean? How much do we talk? How much do we talk in a month?
Yeah.
And she goes, how much do you talk per day? And then she's like, I mean, we're doing ministry together. We were both in ministry together at the same time. She goes, no, how often do you two talk about not ministry?
Yeah.
Just the two of you listening to each other. And she's like, oh, we don't do that every day.
Yeah.
And she's like, you guys need to do that 30 to 45 minutes a day. Kate comes home, tells me this. I'm like, that's impossible. There's no marriage on the planet that can do that. There's too much going on. And now I look back and think, dear Father, how did I not think that? Not only did I think that was impossible, how did I not realize how critical that is?
Yeah.
Like, that's a necessity. We have to be connecting daily.
Yeah.
So thankfully, if I hadn't grown, we would not be together probably.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
it's probably true.
I've grown through that. One of the things I intentionally do, if she's doing something, she comes home from it. If I'm watching TV, pause. Hey, how'd it go?
Yeah.
Tell me about it. What happened? Like this last week, she had a women's night and I'm listening to all of the women that were there, what she said to those women, what they said to her. And I would say I've learned to even enjoy it. Like I can't wait to get her update on what she just did and hear her and hear how she likes it and not make her feel like you've got to, one of the things for years, she was like, I feel like I have to rush when I'm talking to you. Like
Lauren
if I
too.
can't keep your attention and keep you entertained, you're going to check out instantly.
Yeah.
And I got to and so one of the things I've tried to do to restrain myself is I'll leave it when she's done. And it's not like, hey, are you finished? Hey, that's awesome. What else happened?
Yeah.
Anything else happen? Where I'm intentionally asking questions so that she knows here's a crazy thought. I want her to know I want to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
Because if she thinks I don't want to be there, she's not going to open up. Yeah. She's not going to share her heart. Right. And the reality of it is, even for time-wise, you can actually turn what would have been a 2-hour conversation into 30 minutes just by caring.
It's true. Yeah. You're going to be there a whole lot longer if And
true.
the conversation is going to be a whole lot harder if you're not active
100%.
and paying attention.
It took me a lot of, as you would imagine, Jay, it took me years.
Me too, honestly.
Even with my wife, who's not a really high maintenance person in this area, it took me years to get to the point where I was doing it well and training myself to really engage there and love that. But I'm so glad. I mean, there isn't a day goes by that Caitlin and I don't deeply connect.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, the other piece to that is, guys, you have to learn how to emotionally connect.
Yes.
Because that herd is also, she wants to know what's going on inside of you.
Yep.
It's not a one-sided relationship. And often guys have a hard time, even myself, sharing my emotions, actually going, I felt a lot of fear today, or I felt a lot of shame, or I felt angry today, or I feel powerless in this area. But that's the Velcro, right? That she can attach to.
Yeah.
That's where the bond happens. And it's supposed to happen every day.
Yep.
Not once in a while. And so our ability to know her and to see her and to hear her is our ability to also open up and be that place where she can know and see us.
Yep.
And that's part of what makes her feel safe in the relationship. And so, but you're going to have to check your ego at the door, and you're going to have to be brave, because those conversations aren't easy.
Yep.
And I do think a key that you said is guys have to check themselves to see, how am I responding when my wife brings stuff up?
Yeah.
Because if you're responding like an a-hole.
Yeah. And you're just thinking about something else, trying to get through it, trying to suffer through the conversation.
It's not going to go good.
You're actually going to accomplish nothing, and you're actually going to hurt your relationship more.
Well, you end up in a disconnected relationship, right? And so we often don't know that we're doing that. We're not super aware, but I used to make my wife rush too.
Yeah.
Through it.
Like, come, get to
just
give me the facts.
Yeah. Because she wants to go the long way around.
Yeah, she does.
But this is our quality time.
Yeah. And I will, just as a bonus, oftentimes the long way around leads to sex.
It can.
Just putting that out there.
It can.
The short way almost never does.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Well, let's talk about the men, because, I think in a relationship, for men, guys are really looking for that respect. And, that's such a big piece for every man is to feel respected. And also that physical / intimate connection is huge for men as well. And then supported. And, I think I'll dive into the supported one first, because I get this question a lot. Like, how can I help my man from a woman? And the thing is, ladies, if your man feels like you support him, he'll go to hell and back for you.
Yeah.
If you're in his corner and you're championing him and you are praying for him and, encouraging him, asking him, how's this thing going? You're paying attention to what's important to him. That support piece is so huge. And when Lauren does that for me, honestly, she can be one of the main encouragers. She can be one of the main people in my life that actually give me courage to face everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, a lot of men, every single day takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, it's true.
And I sometimes don't think ladies understand or recognize the weight that a man's carrying and how much courage it takes day in and day out to friggin' hustle, to bring in an income, to tackle, carry all the weight and tackle the things that we're supposed to tackle. And that support it's huge.
Yeah, it is. It's we have these friends, a couple we've been friends with for a long time, all the way back in our Sacramento years, Blake and Kelly. And I don't know if I've ever seen a wife more supportive of their husband.
Wow.
In every way.
Wow.
Even when it's joking and it doesn't matter. Sometimes you're like, okay, Kelly, shut up. He's not the greatest man in the whole world.
Yeah.
He's not the greatest at every single thing. And the way she acts, like, yeah, he is. There's nothing that another man is better than him at.
Wow.
Like, not that she's ever said that, but that's the way that
how
she acts.
Yeah.
And you watch it, and it's pretty stunning. Like you see that, and it's very powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Like the way that Kelly is convinced that Blake's the best at it. It's almost like the kid that thinks dad's the superhero and he's good at everything and he can do no wrong. To have a wife that's that supportive is, it's given Blake strength in certain areas. And we're very good friends with them, so I know lots of their journey, but it's empowered Blake to even take risks he may not have taken otherwise.
100%.
Right? Like I've watched him take risks and steps of faith that he maybe wouldn't have had he not known that I'm going to come home and Kelly thinks I'm the greatest no matter what.
Yeah.
Like she's my biggest fan. She's my, all of those things. And I feel the same with Caitlin. I feel super supported by her, but that's just one that sticks out. And I've watched them just do unbelievable thing after unbelievable thing after unbelievable thing together because of this synergy that they have. And it's pretty significant when you feel that.
Well, when your wife supports you, you have the bandwidth and permission to take risks. Yeah. Calculated risks, right?
It's true.
But when you don't feel like your wife supports you, you feel like you're under the microscope all the time. And it's good. There's no margin to take risks, right? Because you're like, oh, she doesn't really like what I'm doing anyways. And you just become smaller and smaller and smaller, or you feel like you're fighting her. Yeah. But that support it's gigantic. For a man who's asking the question, do I have what it takes? Whew, ladies, sending that message to him in a bunch of different ways. So support can look like that small text message that says, hey, what you're doing today matters. Thank you so much. It can be asking him about, how are you feeling at work, or how are you feeling? And, just giving him encouragement and praying for him in the morning. Yep. Honestly, hey, before you go, like, let me pray over you. Yeah. Could be, small prophetic word, like anything like that. Even support, like some of the biggest areas that I wanted support in were my hobbies, honestly. For
you
me,
wanted her to make flies with you.
Yeah. Tie flies. No, I wanted my wife to actively listen when I'm sharing about my hobby, the thing that I love. Yeah. And then also to allow me to do it in a responsible way. Obviously, if I'm taking a bunch of time away from her, but and there was a period of time where Lauren didn't really care about, she didn't pay a bunch of attention to my hunting and fishing. Yeah. A lot, she would say, because I did it too much, which is true. But the other side is like, I didn't ever feel like I could share with her.
There was a season where I thought, he's going fishing again this weekend? How can he do this all the time?
I know.
I guess this would never fly in my marriage.
It's true. It's true. It didn't fly when we had little kids. My kids were older, so that was part of what was happening. But yeah. And so for me, like that piece is big. Like being able to talk about the things that I care about was huge.
That's great.
Respect. You want to open this one up?
Yeah, sure. It's interesting to me on this because it does really go both ways, right? Like, there is responsibility on the wife to respect her husband. I also think there's a responsibility on the man to be respectable.
Yeah. 100%.
And to be respect worthy, right? And some of this is it's so intertwined. Yeah. It's not just as simple as you can compartmentalize, hear my wife, see my wife, support my husband. One thing leads to the other. Yeah. Right. When I'm hearing my wife and I'm seeing my wife, I'm actually going to naturally give her the desire to have respect for me. Yeah. Right. When I'm assertive and I am not passive and I'm making sure she feels safe, that actually activates respect that doesn't have to be conscious. Yeah. And respect is such a unique thing because there's really two types. Here's the example. We moved up here 6.5 years ago. I gave respect to your dad on day one simply because of his role in my life. Yeah. Right.
He's your boss.
He's my boss. He's lived years in ministry, proven success in that area. So you give respect kind of for people's credentials
Yeah.
off the bat.
Yep.
That's very different than the respect I now have for him, though.
Yeah.
Those aren't the same thing.
Yeah. He's earned a place in your life.
He's earned a place in my life where if Chris calls me or texts me, I'm like, I'm going to listen to this.
Yeah.
Like this matters, right? So I would even say the balance here for a man and a woman is, yeah, there's a level of respect I should be given to every human based on their credentials.
Yeah.
And whatever that means. But that I'm constantly thinking, I want to give people a reason to respect me.
Yeah.
In the way I treat them, the way that I fulfill my responsibilities in that relationship?
Yeah.
And my responsibilities are different in every relationship, but they're never more critical and larger than they are with my wife.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm intentionally seeing, hearing, keeping her safe so that I make it easy for her to want to respect me.
Yeah.
And so not that this is back to the man again, but there's a part of it that really is like,
100%.
I don't want her to have to wake up every morning and say, gosh, I got to respect my husband today. And he's so hard to respect. I got to figure this out. All right. I'm going to respect him because God's called me to respect my husband. I mean, that's great, but I want her to respect me because I've given her reason to, and I've proven respectable, and I've proven that I'm respect worthy. And so, I think that, the woman, it is important that the thing that I would say is if you're struggling to respect your husband is to identify healthy and clear ways that you can communicate the challenge that you're facing.
Yeah.
That aren't an attack.
I agree.
Right? Like, if you're not, you have to identify, is this because I have trust issues and I have respect issues in general because of past experiences? That could very much be the case, right? Where Caitlin even early on would say this, because of her experiences in middle school and high school, she didn't respect men. I would say she didn't even like men. Yeah. Like it took her healing to trust the male gender again. Yeah. And honestly, rightfully so. Like she went through some really painful things that it makes sense. Like she needed healing, right? But she would say, I didn't like or respect men. So that's step number one. Do you have that challenge or that issue where you have a lot of past pain that is impacting today's relationships and that you're just not respecting just simply because you've got work to do healing? Yeah. Right. But then I would say the second thing is if you say, no, I've been healed of that, or I didn't have those experiences and I'm having respect issues and it isn't something I need to work on in my heart. It's something I need him to do different. Figuring out a way to communicate that's not an attacking way. Yeah. And having a really good, healthy dialogue so that you guys can get to the point where you can build not a credential respect, but an built a lifestyle respect that's created from engagement. Yeah.
Respect also has a lot to do with how I engage in the relationship. And so if I respect somebody, then I'm going to run my ideas past them. Yes. I'm going to listen to them.
100%. What do you think of this?
Yeah. I'm going to let them be a leader in my life and be an influencer in my life. And that's a big portion. The Bible is clear about a man's role is to lead, not to dominate. And so part of it is I respect you enough to let you lead. Yeah. And to willingly support you in that role. Mm-hmm. And that's a big piece, right? Yep. And I agree, Cole, like if your husband is not leading and being passive, sharing it in a way that's loving. Yep. I love you. I want to be in a place in our marriage where we are both strong, and I'm having a really hard time because sometimes it feels like you run away from challenges instead of step up to it. Yeah. And I need that. I want you to do that. I'm with you in it.
Yeah, it's great, Jay.
Being able to communicate that is huge.
Well, and I would say to the guys too is, just to remember what causes you to respect somebody, because that's what's going to cause her to respect you. You think about what the things, again, using your dad as an analogy, because it's, he's been my boss and now he's not my boss, but I still have high respect. It's because of what I've watched him do. Yeah. So your respect is going to grow, your wives and your kids for you what are they watching you do?
Yeah.
What are they seeing you? I watch your dad and how he treats people in leadership meetings. I watch him how he has interacted and loved his family well. I get to see him, and those things say, oh man, I'm past a credential respect for him.
Yeah.
I've seen him manage his life this way. I respect the crud out of that. Like, whoa.
Yeah, he's making some hard decisions.
He does. He makes hard decisions. He makes them well. He listens to the Lord, right? Like all those things are what draws me there.
Yeah.
Well, it's no different with a wife or a spouse. So I think even the challenge to the men is take an inventory of what your wife and kids are watching you do.
Yeah.
Because that's probably what's determining, do they respect you? Are they watching you build great habits or have great habits or lead well? Or are you giving them reasons to respect in the way that you lead, the way that you're not passive? And that helps you really, it'll actually start solving some of these other issues too.
It's true. Yeah, dude. The last one, which is the physical and intimate connection. So the things that guys need. Guys are naturally more driven towards touch, physical touch, and have a higher sex drive. And there's something that happens. Like I've told Lauren this before. Like sexual intimacy does something for me with her that nothing else does.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Lauren and I are intimate, I feel connected and bonded to her. Like that protection thing that I want to see her, I want to know her. It like fuels that tank inside of me. And there's
vasopressin.
Yeah.
And the oxytocin.
Yeah.
Literally causes you to feel protective ownership. She's mine.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I think the other piece too is there's very few things that says I love you and I'm with you more than when Lauren like randomly comes up behind me and hugs me, holds my hand, touches my face. Like for me personally, that physical connection is such a massive way that she says, I love you. I see you. I know you. And this topic, the sexual connection topic has been so abused.
Yeah.
Men like, using.
You're my body.
Yeah.
You're mine.
Yeah.
Totally.
That it's almost like I know even talking about it, it makes women nervous and afraid to go like, hey, one of the things that your husband needs is sex. And they're like, oh crap. Because men have demanded it. I'll say the other thing too is men who struggle with a porn addiction or a sex addiction, often the wife feels like they have to give sex in order for him to stay on track.
And they have to entertain, like they have to do it at a high level so that they can compete.
So there's tons of resentment in this area. And that's out of brokenness, right? Like that's out of a man's brokenness. This area gets so muddied. But when we're talking about like in a healthy relationship, again, my wife's drive for sex is way lower than mine.
Yeah.
It's like my drive to emotionally connect is way lower than hers.
Yep.
It's just not the same level.
Yeah.
But because I love her, I do that.
Yeah.
And for me, like, because my wife loves me and wants to communicate that love, she's intimate with me way more than what she feels like.
Totally.
And it's out of a place of love and care and concern. And I know that, and it communicates, I'm with you, babe.
Yeah. Well, and it's, I referenced it, but I think that this intimacy is God's primary relational glue. You think about it, Jay, it's really the only relational differentiation with your wife that you have with your family, like your parents or your siblings, right? Like you've lived with your parents and siblings, you live with your wife.
Yeah.
You've had family experiences with your parents and your siblings, you have them with your wife.
Yeah.
But you're not intimate physically with anybody besides your wife. And now as we understand, our brains actually, there's a a physical response, really. There's like an actual release of chemicals that cause me to say, I feel bonded to her because my brain just released a ridiculous amount of vasopressin when we were intimate.
Yeah.
So for a marriage where sex becomes really infrequent,
you're losing that bond.
You're losing that bond. For a man, it's primarily intimacy, sexual intimacy, that vasopressin and oxytocin are released.
Yeah.
Whereas it's interesting with a woman, it's even released in breastfeeding. But for a man, it's the primary activity that gives you the vasopressin, and that's the main one for men. The primary activity is sexual intimacy. So if it's once a month, and I say this again for the women, if it's once a month, your man is only getting a vasopressin bonding chemical release once a month.
Yeah.
And just from a scientific biological standpoint, it's better for everybody if vasopressin's getting released on a regular basis, because again, none of this you can't do any of this compartmentalized. All of this is intertwined.
Yeah, it is.
Right? So when there's sexual intimacy, it's now the natural byproduct is, I want to hear her.
Yeah.
And I want to see her.
Yeah.
And then when he hears her and sees her, she's like, man, I want to be sexually intimate. True. But what happens, and I saw this in our marriage, one of us had to be willing to go first when we were hurting.
Yeah. It's real.
Like if one of us didn't go first when we were hurting, one of us had to get over ourselves.
Yeah.
Or ideally, both of us had to get over ourselves. Yeah. Because she's not having sex with me, I'm not talking to her. Not that I probably even said that verbally.
Yeah.
But I felt it.
Internally.
I'm not having sex with him because he doesn't listen to me.
Yeah.
Well, we can both be right all the way to disconnection.
Yeah, it's true.
Or one of us can say, man, I'm going to love them really well.
Yeah.
Knowing that doing that well tonight doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to get this other thing tonight.
Yep.
But I'm going to do this because this is what our marriage needs. And so just being the one to go first, to jump
massive.
over that hurt is huge.
Yeah. I have often told and reminded Lauren, like, you're the only woman in the entire world that I can point my sex drive at.
Yep.
You're it. You're the only one. So like, if you don't participate in that, I have this drive, right? Like I have this drive to be sexual, to be intimate, and like, you're it, babe. You're the one that I get to pursue over and over and over again. Obviously I need to do it in a way that's loving to her.
Yeah.
But also she needs to be willing to engage in that and to allow that to happen, because it's a massive part of my life, right?
Yeah.
That we have different needs for. So
it's great.
Cole, you're awesome, man.
You too.
Guys, hopefully this was helpful. And ladies, hopefully this was helpful for you. If you enjoyed this podcast,
we should do a marriage sex podcast with both of our wives.
Let's do it.
The four of us.
Yeah,
that'd be really fun.
Okay.
And just unpack our lives for everybody.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be awkward for no one, I'm sure.
Well, it would be helpful.
Yeah.
Anyways. We don't have to give like the dirty details.
You were doing the outro and I just jumped in.
Listen, if you like what we're doing, share it, subscribe, leave a comment. That helps us so much. Otherwise, we will see you next week on the BraveCo podcast. Stay brave, men. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the BraveCo podcast. If you like this podcast, would you please rate it, review it, leave us a great comment. And if you like this episode in particular, share it with your friends and family. That helps us to spread the word. Guys, stay brave. We'll see you next week.